Hello, how is everybody today? It is Allison Dawrant coming to you from my studio in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And my little rescue dog Oakley is working on his treat ball behind me here, so there's a little bit of background noise, but that's just the way it goes in my studio. In front of me is a giclee print. So this is a giclee print, otherwise known as a fine art print on 100% cotton rag material. And this was my watercolor landscape painting titled Seeing the Forest for the Trees. And this was an order that was placed quite recently, and I'm going to mail it off to the US. And I just wanted to share what that looks like because I recently showed you what this print looked like on canvas material. I don't have that beside me. I do have a couple other prints on, let's just see, this is an example of a very small canvas print. And again, it's embellished. And this is my painting titled Elements of Focus. So I still have a little bit more embellishment to do, but this is what a canvas print would look like. Typically these are framed on a cradled wood frame, and that's how they're hung. So I just thought I would share with you what this looks like when it's not on the frame. And we'll just set that aside and we'll go back to it. So yeah, seeing the forest for the trees. And I don't know where this video is going to take us today because I love doing unedited, unplanned videos. I have some idea where I'm going to go today. However, it's just very spontaneous. So you have to kind of be okay with changing gears and me not always staying on track. So again, I just thought I'd share this beautiful cotton rag print. I have a local printer here in Calgary and his name is Ken Chow and his website is artmagic.ca, and magic is spelt with a K, not a C. So his prints are very magical and he does a wonderful job. So yeah, I just thought I'd share this with you and share some of the relaxing art that I've been doing in the mornings. Part of my practice when I get up in the morning is finding a way to just wind down. And this was something I did with my now 7-year-old son. He's really into the Mario Brothers. And we've been printing off these characters and painting them. So this was my bookmark, which I thought I would share. And then I did a number of YouTube videos years ago, well, over a year ago, I haven't been on that long, probably over a year ago, where I talked about doing little art cards that fit in these tins. And so he decided to, instead of making a long bookmark with his characters, he cut all of his characters up, did a wonderful job, and he's probably put them in some kind of order, so I don't want to mess with his system. But I just thought I'd share these cute little tins, and this was my relaxation this morning, which essentially was coloring, and it was just really fun, and it was fun to be able to do something with him together. And then I'll share as well this giclee print, so going back to seeing the forest for the trees, I always like to package my prints a certain way, just so they stay flat when they're in the mail. They're in a waterproof crystal clear bag, and I always include a certificate of authenticity. Right now I really want to embellish that moon on the certificate of authenticity with my gold Posca paint pen. It's just kind of a fun surprise for the person that receives the print. I don't usually do that, but I just like to do it every now and then. And this is an example of a bookmark that I had my printer make with leftover canvas material. So you can see my painting at the top, which is Elements of Focus. This particular painting that I just shared. And also on here is my painting titled Subtleties and Snowflakes. I got these really neat watercolor blooms. I'm just gonna see if I can zoom you all in. You wouldn't be able to see it, but beautiful blooms that came out of this painting, Subtleties and Snowflakes. And this one, In Darkness I Stand With You, I had painted that when the war broke out in the Ukraine. And then this was the very first mountain print that I put into, well, sorry, the first mountain painting that I put into print. And it was probably my first mountain painting, my mountain landscape. So it's titled In the Elements. And I've been told I have sort of, there's a bit of a Japanese influence in my art, Asian influence, and I don't know where that comes from. I think growing up, my mom loved Japanese art. My grandfather traveled a lot and brought back different artworks, and probably some from Japan. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's just an intuitive thing that kind of came through me, but just thought I'd share the bookmark. And so now that this is dry, I'm going to slip it in the crystal clear bag. Just get off any little dust particles. And I always like to put, I am going to put a backboard in here just because it's going in the mail, and I'm going to use a cardboard mailer. And so I like to slip either a business card or a bookmark and the certificate of authenticity in the back. And then I'm going to seal it up, and this will be sent off to the US. And I'm just going to set that down in a place where I can see it and remember to get it off in the mail. I was really inspired. This morning I took a photo of the sidewalk because there was the sweetest little bird footprints on the sidewalk, and I really loved the design, and I thought that would be a really cool design mark making to do with my angled brush that I had been showing you all yesterday in my video, and how to do shapes and new mark making with watercolors and this angled brush. So I thought that would be kind of a fun warm-up, and then talk to you a little bit about where my art practice is going. Yesterday we also finished this painting, this art poetry watercolor painting, Find Magic in the Moment. And it was kind of neat because these ladies just appeared, and I just kept them in the painting, and somebody had said if I turned the painting they could see another lady's face, and I am just trying to see where that may have come from. I'll have to read the comments again. I just took a really quick glance at them, and so after my son and I got through working on, actually my husband too, he was painting with us, which was super fun. I switched gears. So while the boys were making their Mario cutouts and Mario bookmarks, I grabbed my watercolor coil book and my Beam paint palette from Beam Paints Canada. And I practiced some layering techniques with my angular brush. And I thought that would be fun to share with you all today. So you can see the beautiful wet grizzly watercolor, that Beam paint stone that's in a beeswax wrapped canvas. That's where I got that gorgeous metallic. And then the pink, that pearlescent light pink, is fireweed, another beautiful paint stone from Beam Paints. And actually I did this whole page with their paint stones, and I only used my angular brush. So if you're just tuning in and you're not a subscriber, you are just kind of starting fresh today, I've been playing with this Princeton Aqua Elite 1/2 inch angular shader brush, because the brush that I love and have used for so many of my works is this round brush by Holbein that is no longer made, and I used it so much probably used it improperly with like acrylic inks and alcohol inks, and I'm sure I didn't take as good a care of the tip as I could have. You want that brush, when it's a watercolor brush, you want the round brush to come to a point and kind of, you know, keep that brush the way it came as best you can. So when you're using your watercolor brushes, just be cautious if you're using acrylic paints or acrylic paint with them. When I'm doing acrylic paint, it's funny. I mean, this is pretty much what I have done to my watercolor brush. This is just a round mixed media brush, and you can actually see I have gold alcohol ink that I still haven't cleaned out of the bristles. But it's funny because this is a mixed media brush meant for acrylics, and when I first started I had no idea what I was doing, and I just loved this brush and used it for everything and really dulled the tip. So do try and take care of your brushes. I really wish I read a little bit more on brush care. I never thought I would get into watercolor painting like this. So yeah, so moving on, I'm gonna be using my Canson mixed media 9 by 12 inch coil watercolor paper book, and I'll just share with you what that looks like. So added a little washi tape yesterday that was stuck on there. Canson XL watercolor, and you always want over 90 pounds if you're working with watercolor, but 140 or heavier is ideal in my mind to hold watercolor media. And 300 grams is sort of the other term, but it's a really, really great weight of paper. This is how I clean off my brush sometimes, just making marks. And the start of some of my paintings, which I will go through at some point. Some words. This is when we did, I believe it was yesterday with the angle brush. We did a lot of butterflies and practicing shapes and flowers. And we're gonna do more of that today. And so what I wanna do, I feel like it would be super fun. Where did oh, I guess it's still in the book. Did I tear out that page? Oh, okay, I'm gonna tear out this page just to show you all. So the nice thing about this coil book, it also has perforated edges. So if you choose to take the painting out and not keep it as a coil book, you can do that, and you can do it a bit easier than having to cut it or tear it yourself. And I've often painted right off the edges, but I like that in my work. So I'm okay that I lost a little bit to the coil book there. And I'm just gonna see if I can bring you up a little bit. And then I can zoom you in if I feel like you're gonna be missing any of the details. But I really like how this turned out. I realize it's upside down, but that doesn't matter. I was just playing around with colors and transparency, and I just was playing with mark making with this angular brush. And so I'm gonna do one that's fairly quick today because we'd already done this yesterday to a degree. And I'm just gonna add some water, and I call it activating my watercolors. And I'm gonna use my little bird footprints as a warm-up. So I'm just gonna kind of angle my book a bit, which is funny because I'm using an angular brush. And I'm gonna get the brush wet and have some paper towel handy. And I really just feel like, without any rhyme or reason, trying these little footprints that I took a photo of. So I'm gonna go into a color, I'm gonna go into violet because it's such a dark purple and almost like a deep gemstone purple color. And I'm just gonna hold the brush in a way that's comfortable and make some line work. And I'm gonna just go straight down, and then, which it didn't necessarily come out. I mean, that looks thicker in the middle than a bird footprint, but that's okay. I'm not going for accuracy. I'm just sort of thinking of this as documenting a pattern that I saw outside on the cement when I was heading out to do errands today. And we had a recent snowfall. It's very cold out. And I thought that's just a really interesting, I love animals, and I just thought it's such a cute little pathway this bird created between our house and our garage. And I thought, well, that would be great with my angular brush. So I'm just doing a line, because the way the bird was moving, it was like it left cute linear skid marks. And again, I had the footprint. So cute. So I really like the addition of this as mark making in my toolbox, my mental memory bank and my toolbox. So when I'm painting, this is a mark that I probably will try and incorporate into some of my future works. And it will remind me of the beautiful recent snowfall. Today is New Year's Eve day, so December 31st. And it will just remind me of that. So I'm gonna clean off my brush, and then I'm gonna paint some of these flowers with you all with my 1/2" angular brush. And I'm gonna try and paint some that are a little bit larger. I'm just gonna pick any color that I'm just craving, which happens to be this cherry magenta. And if you watched my video yesterday, you'll show me angle my brush down and just push down and lift up to get a shape. And it's gonna take a little bit of practice to I'm already kind of feeling out of my rhythm, drawing a blank. So I've angled my brush one way and just push down, and then I'm gonna angle it the other way and then pull it up. And I really liked the addition of line work, but not necessarily straight or wide or narrow on either side, just kind of random. And then I'm gonna almost squint my eyes and try and make a petal. And the key for me is not to overwork it. This one, I just really want to add another mark in there. This is a very abstract floral botanical. I still have a lot of paint on my brush, and so I'm gonna put another one just down here. And again, not really overthinking it. Gonna add a little bit more water on my brush. And I want to add a really large orange one here. So I'm dipping into the Beam Paintstone pumpkin, and I'm just gonna maybe angle it a slightly different direction. And it turned out I was trying to do bigger, and it became very much a similar size, and that's okay. So I'll try and do maybe a larger one. Let's just see, probably in the upper left corner up here. And right now, because I have so much pigment on my brush, I'm just gonna add in a very small orange one. And really, it doesn't even look like a flower, but I like it. And maybe I'll do like another orange one down here. And all I'm doing is just playing with the shape of the brush and aiming to make some petals and leaves or whatever they are, just not overthinking it. I'm going to go with robin's egg, this lovely robin's egg color. If you've ever seen a robin's egg with the speckles. Okay, is that robin's egg? I think it's robin's. Yeah, it is robin's egg. Couldn't remember if that was a different brand. And I'm gonna, again, push down, try and make bigger marks. I'm going over top of the purple there not really being bothered. I like the way things blend, and bringing my brush, pointing it down and to the left and up, and then another little petal mark. And again, that's not quite as big as I wanted, but the good thing with watercolor, I'm just gonna add another kind of little one down here. The good thing with watercolor is I can always go back over top with a more transparent one and layer it and make this bigger if I want that to be more of a focal point. And you're just going with color craving exercises. So just gonna see, I really love this orca that's in the shell from Beam Paints. So I'm gonna just kind of squint my eyes and decide where do I want to put it. I think I'm gonna put it right here, and again, kind of go big. And I'm just not overthinking what I'm doing. Make a smaller one up here. And again, the smaller ones don't even look like the larger ones. You could discover a new mark that's smaller that reminds you of a similar abstract botanical if you just kind of play around with the brush. So maybe using the tip of the brush and just kind of just squinting your eyes and kind of thinking of an abstract plant or flower. And I like to kind of add multiple of the same color. And another mark that I liked to do that I kind of discovered was just long, almost grass, bamboo, long strands, petals. This is spring green. And so I'm just gonna, without kind of thinking too much, I'm just gonna do, how do I say, do some lines with my angled brush. And I almost wanna, without worrying about it touching the wet watercolors, just kind of go through, almost thinking of a composition kind of heavier in this bottom to middle right, and then up to the side. And then I'm gonna grab Lake Huron teal, and I'm just gonna add it in while this area is still wet with the spring green. And then squint my eyes and decide if I like it. I want to go back to the spring green and add maybe a bit of a thicker mark down here. And maybe I'll add a bit of shimmer with this fiddlehead green. So just not really overthinking what you're doing. Just adding energy into the page and practicing with your angled brush. I'm just gonna see where it's best for you guys. I'm gonna lift you up a little bit more so you can see my page. And when you get more comfortable, when you start working faster, you can drop more colors into the flowers that you already have down. And I'm gonna just show you an example of, this is pretty much dry, of layering. I'm gonna go into pumpkin spice, which is just a bit darker and more transparent, or sorry, lighter and more transparent than pumpkin. And I'm just gonna kind of go over top in the same shape and just make this orange flower stand out a bit more. And maybe just another swipe of that down here. And just to add interest, to add shimmer, and to make the orange a little bit more of a focal point. And I'm gonna go in Maybe I'll also try and do that with this one here, with the fireweed, this gorgeous pearlescent pink. And I'm just going to emphasize this one by going right over top of the marks that I already have. This page is becoming really interesting to me, and I like the idea that I can go back in and layer, and I like white space in my work, but we could really fill this up if we wanted. Maybe I want to add in just a pop of a different color, just deciding what I want to add in. Maybe a red. So we could use Strawberry Red by Beam Paints. So the key, you don't have to worry about what watercolors you're using. You just want to have an angled brush or a brush you want to play with the shape. So you may have a round brush and you might be making round petals. And I have quite a bit of pigment on my brush, and I'm just deciding if I want to maybe go over top of the turquoise a little bit. And I find that really pretty. Just that pop of red. And I might go back and just make another bigger stroke just to emphasize the transparency of the turquoise underneath. And just kind of maybe add a bit more line work, make it a little bit bigger. And it kind of blended with the purple a bit, and that's okay though. I don't mind that at all. And I'm gonna go into maybe adding, let's see, what do I want to add? Maybe we can add, I almost feel like just adding, with this wet grizzly, just adding more of the long lines that are almost like, you know, possibly leaves, possibly bamboo or grass, or just line work. So just kind of thickening this up here and swiping some of this bronze, this wet grizzly, kind of maybe through here, and working kind of quickly, and then going into this cub brown, which does not have a shimmer, and just in a few areas adding in some of the brown. And what I'm doing, I actually like how that picked up the orca, is I'm just not overthinking it. I'm just kind of squinting my eyes and looking at my composition and deciding what I'm enjoying and what I, you know, maybe wouldn't repeat next time. I'm pretty happy with this. I feel like this is a good place to let it rest. And, you know, we've had a great opportunity to incorporate some of the grass line work, some of the bird footprints, those little footprints that I happen to see outside, and just capture on this piece of paper. And we can go back and do some more transparent layers. And this is still a bit wet, this red, so, you know, you can be bold and drop in either a shimmery color, or I don't know what would show up. I could be bold and maybe add maybe a bit of this timber wolf and orca, and just kind of drop it in here. And it's pretty dry. I was hoping it would be a bit more wet, but that's okay. We can just see if we can help it a little bit. And maybe adding a little bit of that dark timber wolf just down here. almost as though, how do you say, there's like a center to some of the flowers. That one looks like a heart facing to the left. And just not really worrying about, you know, this is really running a lot, but this orca was picked up when I brushed through with the wet grizzly. And I find all of this really interesting. I find the painting much more interesting versus just having the colors sitting on the paper. And look at how beautiful the orca and that strawberry red, when it's drying, it's just this gorgeous, I don't know what that texture is. It's really pretty. Okay, so we will just set this aside for a second and just, let's see here. Just as a recap with our angled brush. So pick a color that you love. So this strawberry red, and just doing a whole bunch of lines and then angling to the left and to the right to kind of emulate a pathway of a bird through the snow. And you may see, oh, this is a beautiful looking, this could be a plant. So as you get repeating a pattern, you start to come up with your own ideas. So pushing down a bit more, and I'm combining the red with the orca, the strawberry red and the orca. And this looks like a gorgeous bird. Could be a butterfly, it could be a plant or some type of tulip. I'm gonna just grab some orange because that's what's coming to my mind. And, you know, maybe adding a little bit of orange in here and just watching. And that wasn't quite wet enough for the effect that I wanted, but that's okay. It's just all about play. And so, you know how they say with art, you know, or drawing, let's take a line for a walk. This is basically what we're doing, is we're taking a specific shaped paintbrush and we're taking it for a brush mark. And when we're doing that, we are kind of training our brain, our hand-eye coordination to remember some of these marks. So I'm picking up some gold, and I'm kind of layering in different areas of this page. I love layering metallics over almost dried work. And I'm almost seeing like I'm making a field of flowers, plants, grasses. And you're just, right now I'm mixing the spring green with the Lake Huron teal. That just became almost a flower with a really pretty orange bloom on the top. And so you're just choosing colors, you know, you're choosing to mix colors that you might like, that you may not have thought about. Right now we're doing this really interesting pattern, and the whole pattern started by just a line from our angled brush and doing 2 lines off to the side. Then if you flatten the brush like we were doing yesterday with the butterflies, you're getting a really different effect. And you can even turn your page and start to work on it in a different way. So maybe we will grab this violet just to really show what we're doing and go straight through our work. This is about discovery, it's about relaxation. And maybe I want to try some kind of mark like this. And that's quite wet. And maybe I want to turn it around. Maybe try that purple mark in here. And right now I'm just going with what I'm craving, which is this gorgeous, what is this, robin's egg. And just kind of filling in the blank spaces with this pretty color. I'm just going to switch my water out. And I'm just sort of thinking this angled brush is also really good for carving out images. So I'm not being too precise. I'm just kind of playing, and my paper is curled up a bit, and oops, got my arm in. So I just decided I'm really loving this kind of aqua robin's egg, this turquoise. Some of the watercolor is dry, some of it's not. And by doing this and working on the painting in different angles, I'm just deciding what do I enjoy, what feels authentic to my style of painting and exploring. I really like this area here, how the gold is kind of showing that violet through. It's a beautiful gold. You can't really go wrong with those colors. I almost want to brighten up some of this area, this whole painting, with red. And I really like that turquoise. I think I'm going to add maybe one of my butterflies just up here and a line through it. And maybe I'll do just a small one kind of over here with a line through it. It looks a bit like a bird. And you can see we're starting to get transparency because we're working quickly, and I can see the orca coming through the left side of that wing. And I'm gonna add in more of the robin's egg because I think it's so pretty. And I'm enjoying, I do a lot of reductionistic work, so carving around images with my paintbrush. I do a lot of that with my paintings, especially my acrylic paintings, but I'm starting to do more with my watercolors. And I have a dagger brush, and I have not, I think it's called a dagger brush. I have not tried that, but I understand that's also good for kind of carving out. I'll have to play with my dagger brush. This is just, this is a really pretty pattern, and I feel like there's lots that we could do with mark making, and you know, you could cover up a lot of it with acrylic paint or gouache, something more opaque. There's areas that you don't like, but this was, again, taking a paintbrush for a walk, a brush stroke, not taking a line for a walk, but you know, discovering what it is that we like about holding this 1/2-inch angular shader by Princeton Aqua Elite, and just playing with watercolors and on paper. So it's not precious, you know, if you use paper and watercolors that are in your budget, and you can really do mark making with many, many different tools. So it doesn't have to be an expensive paintbrush either. And what I want to share with you all now would be, I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, we'll do, I haven't pulled one of my art poetry cards today. And so I'm just gonna shuffle a little bit. we'll see what we get today. Remember your roots. So that painting, it's kind of hard to see. I have sort of what would look like a sun right here. And this was just a very abstract, intuitive watercolor background. And I started to get what looked like roots when I dripped the watercolor. So that's kind of how this card came to be, remember your roots. And I think it's just really always important to remember your roots, not just your roots, your genetics, your family, your where you're from, culture, background, likes, dislikes, remembering how far you have come, even if you've just started. So, you know, just, I guess speaking from a standpoint of art, like good art takes time, and just remembering that all these little exercises that are seemingly quite simple will add up to so much. And yeah, just the benefits of creating are just, it's solidifying our roots. It's, how do you say, it's keeping us grounded, or at least it does for me. And I'm just gonna leave this card. Remember your roots. I never thought I would be a watercolor artist doing YouTube videos, you know, after giving up my nursing license in 2020. And so, yeah, just remembering how far you've come, and if you really love something and find a way to incorporate it into your life, it's incredible where you can go with it. I'm gonna just randomly pick a card from here. This, this is an art journal prompt deck by Get Messy, and Get Messy Art, they have an online store, and it's a membership, an artist membership by Kaylee Gray. And let's just pick this one for color. It's very bright. And we're gonna just go through, and I'll pick one for, oh, that one's really pretty. I kind of want to have that one out too. So I'm not being very random, but that's okay. Marks, that one's neat. Let's see, technique, that one's one we can choose. Let's see, there's different categories in here. I've picked that one many times, so medium, we'll just pick whatever this one is. And journaling, and we'll pick artist. I think those were all the categories. So I have color in there twice. I'm gonna just pick, I really, really love this. This is so beautiful. So I'm gonna purposely pick this card. It says Michelle S. And I really like strawberries. It reminds me of my childhood summers in Nova Scotia, near the Bay of Fundy, and the wild strawberries that would grow. I love the texture in this card. But yeah, the color is very interesting and very pretty. Use shades of your favorite colors by adding black to them. So we were talking a little bit about shadows, and I was talking about tones and tints and shades in one of my recent videos, but in order to add shade is to add black. If you were to add gray to a color, it would tone the color, and if you were to add white to a color, it would tint the color. And I know I did want to show you how I like to get really beautiful pastels in color mixing, so I might just keep that out as a reminder. Now this artist, Alyssa Grease, and there's words on this, through the open window to the fields. I never thought I would incorporate words in my art, especially my own handwriting. Although I do feel like I enjoy that part of expression. This one, the prompt is take 2 scraps of paper from your stash, stitch them together, and add this to your journal. My son has been wanting to get me to sew with him, hand sew. He's just learning, so that reminds me I'm going to be doing that in the next few days, some hand sewing. And Gabrielle Heckenbucker, and art journaling. So this is an art journal page, and you can see a nose and a mouth, an image. over top of some words, and I love the polka dots and some really beautiful mark making. And the color in this card is quite nice too, even though it's a card for a journaling prompt. And then Medium by Michelle S. Using a ballpoint pen. Technique by Claudia Hassenjäger. So this technique is make marks with a stick. And then marks, this mark making is crosses. And that's Alyssa Grease. So we could always use some of these cards. I just kind of wanted to share these with you because some of you, I believe, had gone to the site to purchase these art prompt cards, and I think they've been sold out. And so what I would like to do is maybe, I'm just gonna see if I have handy something. I suppose what I could do, I'm just wondering what direction I want to go in. I know you all have been really wanting mark making. I'm gonna let this one dry. And just deciding, you know, when you have a page of doodles, background shapes from watercolor, you can do mark making right on top of, you can practice mark making, you know, over top of dried watercolor on anything. And so I'll just share some of my favorite mark making is using my white Posca paint pen. For those of you that follow me, you know that I'm gonna do my polka dots. I'm gonna do the polka. And I'm gonna zero in because I wanna add contrast in my mark making. Actually, I'm just gonna get more comfortable in my chair here. And I love African rooibos tea. The African red bush rooibos, non-caffeinated. And I was also thinking, watch, don't want to get paint from my fingers in here. I was also thinking while I'm actually, whoops, just gonna have a drink for a second. Oh my gosh, I did get, did get a little bit of something in here. Okay, I got it. I don't know if it's Canadian, but I add a little bit of maple syrup to sweeten my rooibos tea. Well, to sweeten my coffee and my tea. And then I use soy milk because I'm dairy free. So yeah, it's just a lovely tea. I don't know if that's Canadian, is it, to add maple syrup to drinks? Probably not, but it's just something I do. And yeah, when I was taking out my tea bag, I realized this rooibos tea, this African red bush, when it is steeped, it has the most beautiful, almost like, it's burnt sienna, the most beautiful kind of color. And someone was saying that they just can't afford expensive watercolors. And I wanted to just say that I have seen, as you know, probably many of you have also seen, people paint with tea and coffee. So this is the African red bush tea, and I'm just getting it on my brush. And it's, again, it's so light. But you can paint with it, and you can practice with your brush. So it's super light, but painting with tea or coffee is an option if like you're really on a budget and you have, you know, even 90-pound watercolor paper is great. But just for meditative play. And you could always later, you know, paint or do marks over top. I know I've seen some artists soak, they make their own painted papers and they soak them, they, how do you say, they stain them with natural elements and with tea bags. So it just crossed my mind. I was thinking, you know, when traveling, and if you don't have watercolors with you, but if you could take your watercolor brush and some paper, it's a great way to just practice brush strokes and patterns. And this would be a fun pattern to do with, you know, with tea. Okay, I was not planning on going down that route, but that's okay. And so I would take my Posca paint pen and just zero in on, I really want to do this red. And this paint pen is well loved, so I'm just gonna shake it. And I'm just gonna add polka dots to the inner part of the petals. And I can add even a little bit maybe to the red in this area where we had that blue, I think it was Winter's Night, and then I dropped in some red. So, you know, just how that small mark making can really take your work up a notch. If it's just like a base of watercolor, it can be really fun and relaxing. I think with this purple, I want to do some line work. So what I would do is I'm going to go down to the point and draw a line and then almost do V lines kind of coming out on the side. And I'm going to do all the petals like that. I do a lot of this line work in my art, both my acrylic and my watercolor art. So adding not just polka dots, but line work. And I like to start by almost drawing a triangle and filling in that triangle with lines. And it doesn't have to have any rhyme or reason. And so again, just looking at this, it just changes this entire painting. Or if we're just thinking of this as play, it changes the entire, the images that you're looking at. And you can also do, you know, an outline. So I would use maybe black, like a black micron. This is a 0.6 millimeter black micron permanent pen. So the same thing, you could look for a lighter area and do polka dots if you wanted. I might try maybe doing polka dots. Kind of want to do them maybe on this kind of light beigey color. And because the watercolors overlap, I can't really tell if I'm still on the same floral botanical, the abstract image, but it just doesn't matter. And then I'm also gonna maybe add some black down here, just to the what looks like maybe the middle of that flower. And I can really loosely kind of add my own kind of, I like that shape. I'm not sure if I like the black polka dots now, so I'm just gonna add a few more. And so, you know, after you've made a move and you've tried something, how do you feel about it? That one, I don't know if I would repeat. I wouldn't repeat it again if it had the polka dots in the middle. I like the line work. And so I would go down here and just really loosely trace over some of the abstract watercolor. And I know this is probably hard for you all to see this whole thing. And maybe doing, you know, you can even add in your own. So just to add a bit more black in here, I'm just trying to decide. This is an interesting composition too. So, you know, if you're to kind of bring in your own line work that you love, I'm gonna just really loosely hold my pen and do a few more of those big flowers. Maybe one down here, going right over top of the watercolor, and then deciding if I want to add more with the stems. Not sure that was a choice I'd want to repeat. That's sort of a different leaf shape. And again, deciding on, you know, is there a composition that you enjoy more than one side more than the other. And I can go in and add lines as though almost there's a center point in some of these. And you may decide that you just love the watercolor without the mark making. So I also like to do black line work. I'm gonna take this one here, and again, I'm gonna draw a triangle towards me, and then I'm just gonna fill it out by doing the lines. And then I'm gonna do the same triangle, this time upwards, and not doing the whole thing, just so I can kind of sit back and see what I prefer. And so it's all about just trying on different, like trying on your wardrobe, just trying something on and seeing if it looks right, feels right with what you're all about as a creative. So that is probably just an example of line work, and I'm just looking to see what else do I have here. If you have Posca paint pens, and Posca paint pens are great for doing, I mean, they're just wonderful to use. So this is a bullet point khaki green Posca paint pen. Just looking to see 0.9 to 1.3 millimeters. And you can go over top if you wanted and maybe emphasize some of the watercolor, some of the lines. And you could outline one of the flowers with the with this one as well. So I would maybe just outline this one. And I'm just looking, you could always add in just another solid, just a drawing of something that looks like it fits for a design element. And because this is just demoing mark making, I've kind of lost interest in this composition. Actually, turning it this way, I like it better. I would not be opposed to pulling out white paint and just covering up areas that I don't love. So what do I have? I go through a lot of white paint. This is expensive white paint. So use what's affordable. This is titanium white fluid acrylic, and I go through a lot of it that it is time that I open a new bottle. I see they put the price up a lot, but any white paint will do. And what I'm gonna do is just use my well-loved round mixed media brush, and I'm just gonna kind of cover up some areas that I painted that I just don't like. And it's gonna bleed, it's gonna go through the white, but I don't care about that. And I'm just gonna pour this on, but however you can get your white paint on, if you're gonna do this process, I'm just gonna kind of cover up things that I don't like. And I'm not overthinking it. I don't like some of that Posca pen that I had done. It's just a bit too dark. I don't love some of the black line work. And this is a fluid acrylic paint, so it has a bit of a transparency to it. You can see that it's picking up the black and it's become a really pretty gray. So I'm just gonna kind of paint with that and just kind of cover up, not all of it. I might leave some of that black line work. And I'm gonna I did not think I'd be painting with acrylics with you all today, but that's just where our videos go when we're having fun. Time flies, it's over an hour. And so I'm just using this round brush and kind of carving around areas with my tinted paint, my white paint that's picked up the black. And I like to do purposeful marks, so like marks that have energy, not just marks that look like I'm covering something up. And if I put the paint on thicker, now this is a fluid acrylic, but if you had a thicker painting, or sorry, a thicker paint, like a heavier body paint, what you can do is you could use a pencil and just etch back in some areas if you wanted. Maybe what I'm gonna do in here is my bird footprints. And maybe I'm gonna repeat that because I quite like it. I'm gonna add a bit more white up here. Maybe a little bit more white over here. Maybe my little bird is taking us on a different pathway. If you feel like you've added too many footprints, you know, if you're following in my footsteps, my footprints here, you can always paint over it, right? So I'm gonna turn this over. That's just how I like to work. And I'm gonna look at it from a different angle. This is pretty wet here. I think I'm gonna go up here and I really like how the Posca pen has brought in this new green that's mixed with my white paint. And I'm gonna just put that in a few areas around the painting. I mean, this is probably a great definition of intuitive painting because I'm just doing what I feel in the moment and I'm not really overthinking it. And I'm gonna add, while the paint, I have the footprints coming this way, and for variety, I might have them kind of coming up maybe different sizes. Oops, that one didn't turn out the way I wanted, so the beauty of covering it up. And so you want to give yourself opportunity. So the more mark making you have, the better, because then you can go back and, you know, I actually really like that area now. And so this is becoming a very interesting mixed media painting. I'm gonna put away my white paint now. And I'm gonna just zoom you in. It's quite dark here in Calgary. It's very dark today, very cold, very snowy. And so I apologize because I have my huge studio lights behind me, and usually I have a lot of daylight from in front of me. And it's today's the light is challenging, but I think you can all see okay. So this is so interesting. This I feel sort of lit up from this. I feel like this process gave me dopamine and serotonin, those feel good chemicals in my brain that, you know, I feel joy, I feel excitement, happiness, because this just is something I would never have planned to have done, but I'm very happy with the outcome because I covered up things that I was demonstrating that I didn't love. I love black line work, but just it was too harsh for this painting. So I kept in some of the white line work, and I can always add in more of the white line work over the purple, even down here. And just for a cohesive design element, which is one of the principles of art. And I really like how there's the line work up here. It's quite heavy. And then down here, I could add in a little bit. Just gonna fix that line. Trying not to get my hand in the acrylic. And I might just do some little lines in here. And I'm just gonna add those lines back in because they're very faint, and deciding I enjoy the polka dots, so I may make some of them bigger. And I'm really shaky trying to hover over that white acrylic paint. I like the use of pencil. I've just started using more pencil in my work, and I don't know what this will become. I feel like when I turn it, I can decide, whoops, where I like it best. I think I like it horizontal, but I might just sit with it. I'll probably put it up on my fireplace where it can sit for the next day or two, and I can just take it in and decide what do I enjoy about it. I will remember enjoying painting with you all on video though, and so this is a fun reminder of the day. This one, I feel like I just want to lighten. I am gonna just use a white watercolor. Find my angle brush. I could just use my white acrylic paint, I suppose, but I'm just gonna go into the white paint from Beam Paint Stones and just see if I can lighten up this blue, which just I'm not feeling. And that's exactly what I wanted to do, which is just not have it quite so dark. So I really like that. And I might see if I can do the same for that robin's egg, just tone it down a bit by adding in some white. And if you decide, oh, I wish I didn't do that, I mean, you can dab it up, right, with paper towel. But I feel like I'm enjoying this a lot more. And I can still etch into some areas. So if I wanted to do just like little marks, little dash marks, I can take that opportunity, and if I didn't like it, I could just go back over top with my acrylic paint. And I feel like I realized that's a bit too close together, so I'm gonna lighten up that area a little bit more. Go back to my fluid acrylic. And it's just too gray here, so we'll just dial that back a bit to what it was before. And then I can still see the bird footprints in here. And I might make that one a little bit thicker because I really like the colors showing through. Yeah, so this is just an example of a very intuitive, fun, kind of playful piece that I would probably normally do in my art journal. But I hope you had some fun and felt inspired today by this. And it was, I'm trying to think of what my plan was for the video. I do want to paint landscapes with you all, but maybe I will do that next time. And just again, now knowing that this is ready for, we can make it more interesting. So we can carve around it with our angle brush and pick a color and just make this stand out. So pick a background color, or we can just add way more florals, botanicals, leaf shapes, words. There's so many things we could do. I'm quite pleased with this new style for me because of the angular brush. I really like this, how it's sort of like an abstract layered flower. And yeah, I feel like for me, I would want to do my white. Whoa, that really came out fast. Those polka dots are quite big, but because I like the polka dots in the middle of flowers, and I might do just a little bit on this one, not the whole thing. I like that a lot. And as far as, you know, you can add line work. And I just felt like adding line work there almost to bring the eye around and down. And then this one, you could do like a line, just almost a little line that implies there's a stem. I like how this one has that natural stem kind of going that way. And I think it would be fun to add a word in here somehow. I almost feel like adding the word joy in here. And that's just how much I enjoyed the video today. And I would want to sign it as well with a small pen. Oh, and this was the micron 0.6 millimeters that I'd written the word in. And I'm just gonna sign my name up the stem. And this is Artist Loft, sort of like a micron pen. It's Michael's in-house brand, and this is a 0.05, so it's a really, really fine pen. And I think I would want to do, I think I'd want to make this black. Fill it in. So normally I'd use a black paint pen or black paint, but because I have the Micron handy, I'm just going to do that. And same with this one. Just going to fill it in. And this one, I mean, you could add, it's sort of an abstract looking flower. I might add those line work, and same with over here, just a little bit of line work. And I might just kind of go over top with a little line, almost like a T. And I might go over top of that as well with white once that dries, and maybe metallics. And, you know, part of me is thinking maybe that was too much. Do I like the addition of the black? And it might have been, but when I really pull the piece together and add the metallics, I'll kind of sit back and see. And I think what I'm going to do is just add white to the top of the T, which I do with a lot of my botanicals. And I'm going to just do that here as well, just adding white to the top of those little T's, the inner part of the flower. And already I like it much better. Yeah, I feel like that is probably where I would leave this this little mini painting as well, this practice piece. I'm happy with that, and I wish you all joy and calm and inspiration. And I'll just finish my video by pulling a card with an intention for the new year. And this one is my art poetry painting that says, "Find the silver lining." And so I'll leave you with that, and thank you so much, and we will see you on video soon.